What's going on, everybody? It is Clint here with the Die Hard MMA podcast, and it's time for the best MMA betting show of the week, the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. We're talking UFC Vegas 37, and we have a 14-fight card offering to get to. So let's dig straight on into this bad boy. Do me a favor, sub to Pub Sports Radio. We're so close to 10K, and smash that like button for me. Let's get this thing going. Gustavo Lopez. I'm starting way in the middle. My notes are off. Emily Whitmire taking on Hannah Goldy, kicking off our evening here. Emily Whitmire came in at 125, as did Hannah Goldy. No issues for Whitmire. She looked a little bit sucked out, but that's to be expected. Quick on and off the scale, nothing to worry about. Hannah Goldy, on the other hand, she's an absolute unit of a woman. Big one-arm flex, big smile. She's feeling good about herself, and this was a really good face-off. These two got up in each other's business. Whitmire obviously a bit taller, a bit longer. We knew that coming in, but I'm surprised at the lack of size difference because Hannah Goldy is a tank. I don't know how she manages to make 125 with all that muscle on her frame, and it looked like it was easier for her to get there than it was for Whitmire to get there. What we've got right now is a line that hasn't budged a whole lot over the course of the week. Minus 125 for Whitmire, plus 100 even money for Hannah Goldy. And early on in the week, I said it was kind of a dogger pass spot. I'm a little tempted on Hannah Goldy. That has not changed. I think she's going to be too much for Whitmire to take down and hold down. And if this fight stays standing, I think Hannah Goldy is going to be more active, even though I'll be completely frank here. I hate her striking game. It is not good. It is not pleasing to the eye. It probably doesn't do well for the judges. So if Emily Whitmire does end up keeping this thing on the feet and lands a couple harder shots, if she's the one who, can get some forward pressure going, she might squeeze away a split decision win or something here. This is not a fight that I'm going to bet. I kind of thought maybe I'd end up taking a flyer on Hannah Goldy by the end of the week, or if I saw something that I liked at the face-offs, maybe that spurs me one way or the other, but it's a spot where if Whitmire can't get the wrestling going, it's going to get sketchy. If she can get the wrestling going, honestly, she might look like a minus 500 favorite. So I'm not touching this one, and we're going to move on. Gustavo Lopez taking on Hailey Alateng. Lopez came in at 135. Alateng came in at 136. Lopez absolutely jacked, maybe the best shape that we have seen him in. He looked excellent. And Hailey Alateng, this dude came in at 136, focused and mean. I don't think I've seen him in this good a shape, and that adds up because he went to fight ready for this camp. So totally checks out. Makes sense. Shout out Dylan Carter. This guy caught me in the live chat over on MMA Junkie watching the weigh-ins and asked me who was going to be jacked today. And there you go, Dylan. You got the first one out of the way. So I'm already on Hailey Alateng in this spot. Minus 125 for 2.5 units. This was a good face-up. These guys really size up well. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit worried about Lopez. He's a guy that I think is underrated. He's a guy that I've looked to back a couple times before, but I think he's a little outclassed here, and I think Fight Ready should have Hailey Alateng geared up and ready to go for this fight. On top of that, the wrestling advantage. If Hailey Alateng uses that wrestling, I know it's a big if, but if he does, I think he's going to be in business here in this spot, but don't underestimate his striking. That dude's got a right hand from hell, and he almost put a couple of people out with it with some rudimentary striking. I think he's going to be sharpened up, and I think there's a chance he's even live for the knockout here in this spot. So should be a fun fight. I'm on Hailey Alateng. Not a whole lot changes as far as the weigh-in reads goes for this one because they both looked excellent. Impa Kasanganay taking on Carlston Harris. Kasanganay came in at 170.5. Harris came in at 170 flat. Kasanganay looked you know what? He looked a bit tired. He got up there and he gave a big sigh and he was blinking a bit. He's a big dude. He's got a lot of muscle on his frame. We know that, so he could be having... Whoa, excuse me! That one came out of nowhere. I am so sorry. All right, Carlston Harris. This dude is in crazy good shape, though. All right, he's got like 10 abs on him when he gets up there. Tall, long torso. This is going to be a crazy fight. Slight height advantage and size advantage there for Harris, but it was a respectful face-off. Man, the problem is for me, if Harris cannot get to the takedowns, if Impa has improved that takedown defense enough, I think he's physically strong enough to keep this thing standing. He probably outpoints Harris on the feet in this spot. But if Harris gets it to the ground, Kasanganay is going to be in a world of hurt off of his back. He's going to be in serious trouble. So not a fight that I'm interested in at all. We've got a lot of people out there betting on Carlston Harris, and he's taken a bunch of love all the way from plus 150 down to even money at this point. I get it. I understand, I get the angle here, but it's also a spot where we might be pronouncing a kid that's young and improving and talented like Impa Kasanganay dead just a little too early. I think if he shows up with an extra little wrinkle in his game, he could really impress here in this spot and spoil a lot of those underdog tickets. So again, this is a sketchy spot. Lots of questions to be answered. I'm not going to bet this one. Erin Blanchfield taking on Sarah Alpar. Blanchfield came in at 125, Alpar 126. Blanchfield looked good. Nothing really to report there. It was easy peasy for her to get up on the scale and do what she needed to do. Sarah Alpar, on the other hand, she almost cried. She got on the scale and she looked absolutely relieved when they read that weight off. There was a question about her missing weight. People were concerned, talking about her getting cut if she didn't come in on point for this one. And she was red in the face prior to getting on the scale, prior to the almost crying. It looks like she may have had a bit of a hard time getting down to this weight here, and you could see the emotion on her when she actually made it. Now, when they had a face-off here, this was intense. It was a good face-off. They got up on each other, and they are the same size, except there is a thickness advantage for Sarah Alpar, and that's where, you can see Ariane had no problem making the weight, but you could see why Sarah had a problem making the weight when they got in there and faced off. Erin Blanchfield is a spot that everybody is just absolutely piling on this week, and I understand it. She's a hot prospect. I like her skill set. She's got good subs, but man, if Sarah Alpar gets the wrestling going in this spot, she could be on top for 15 minutes here. She could end up winning a very boring, grappling, heavy decision here, as long as she minds her P's and Q's. If she lets Erin Blanchfield get on top or catch a neck or something like that, then she's gonna get tapped. But I think the thickness, that size for Sarah Alpar, it's enough to kind of steer me back just a little bit. I'm not a fan of laying big chalk on UFC debutantes. I've been burned by that before. We've learned this lesson. So Erin Blanchfield is someone who I do believe in. I think she's got a bright future in MMA, and I'll be looking to back her down the line. But I cannot pay minus 375, minus 400 for a UFC debutante in this situation, simply because I've done it before. It's busted parlays. It's cost me money. I've learned my lesson, and I'm not going back to the well. She might win this thing easy peasy lemon squeezy. She might choke this girl out in the first round, and that's to be fully expected, but I'm not going to put my money on that price tag until we see her actually compete and win at this level. Montel Jackson taking on JP Buys. Jackson came in at 136, so did Buys, and Jackson looked good. He said hi to the photo count lady that makes them stay up there and hold their position until they get the weigh-in photos taken care of. He was quick, on and off, real quick. JP Buys, first one to the scale. He looked solid up there. We know he usually fights down at 125, so 135 was no issue for him whatsoever. And when they faced off, absolute massive size advantage for Montel Jackson. This is a spot that, again, everyone is piling on Montel Jackson, and I had a bit of a hot take on my podcast on Monday. I talked about how the one time we've seen, or not the one time, but the one way we've really seen Montel Jackson lose in the UFC is these chain grapplers, guys that pin him up against the fence, take him down on repeat, and then just smother him there on the floor. And I thought JP Buys might be able to go back to his wrestling roots and pull that kind of a game plan off. But man, that size discrepancy is an issue. I was waiting till today. I wanted to see if that line got inflated more. I wanted to see if maybe he sized up with Jackson a little bit better and I could have a little bit of confidence that he'd be able to pull that off. None of that's happening. The line hasn't moved. I'm not getting more than plus 450 or so on JP Buys, and he's tiny. He looks absolutely tiny next to Montel Jackson. We know how big Jackson is. They talk about how, big his hands are and how strong his grip is and stuff. Like, it's just all bad signs for me. I'm not getting the number I want to take the flyer on JP Buys. If I was getting plus 600 or something crazy like that, then maybe you take a flyer on it. But I don't know that this is the spot. So I'm going to chicken out. I'm going to chicken out on the big underdog spot here with JP Buys. I wouldn't be shocked if he gave Montel Jackson some trouble, but we've also seen him kind of pack his bags and go home halfway through a fight before. And if Jackson lands one or two of those big bombs on him in round one, I could see him doing that here and just getting out of dodge. So I'm going to pass on that one and don't like what I saw as far as the size discrepancy between these two. Next up, Zurong taking on Brandon Jenkins. This is an interesting spot. Brandon Jenkins is a short notice fill-in replacement. Zhu Rong came in 3 pounds over. He made 158, and he pounded his chest and threw his arms up and was roaring like he won something on the stage. It was weird. It was weird. I don't know if maybe he was concerned that the fight was going to get pulled because his weight miss was that bad or something along those lines, that maybe he was excited he just gets to stay on the card. I'm not sure. But it was funny because his cornerman had to kind of explain to him that he still missed weight after it was all said and done. Jenkins on short notice, though, makes 155.5. He moved well, no issues on and off the scale. I didn't see any problems with him whatsoever. And then when they faced off, this is the part that gets me. This is the part that caught me off guard. Jenkins is the bigger fighter. He's got a decent size advantage in this spot. And I really thought that Zhu Rong was going to be the bigger of the two men. I kind of was looking towards maybe parlaying Zhu Rong, taking him by knockout, something along those lines, because Brandon Jenkins, I went back and I did my tape study again. I like this kid. We bet on him in the PFL just a couple weeks ago and scored a nice cash on him. But he's a little defensively open. He gets hit with right hands a lot, and one of the best punches Zhu Rong has is that big right cross that he fires down the pipe. So I think he's gonna be there to be hit by Zhu Rong, and with Zhu Rong missing weight and having a couple of extra pounds on him, that could really spell trouble. But I thought he was going to be the smaller man. I thought he was going to be at a size disadvantage and really get out physicaled and out muscled by a guy like Zhu Rong. The fact is, that's not the case. Brandon Jenkins is a bit of a wild man. He likes to throw flying knees, he keeps a high pace, he gets in opponents' faces, and he's fought a decent level of competition in other organizations so far, at least comparable to Zhu Rong's level of competition, because let's face it, Zhu Rong has a bit of a padded record before he got to the UFC. So this is a spot that's clearly a dog or pass for me at this point. There's no way I can lay minus 300 on a guy like Zhu Rong, especially given that he is not going to have the size advantage like I thought he was going to in this spot. I'm actually really tempted to go back to the well on my guy Brandon Jenkins. He came through for me in the PFL. I'm 1-0 back in Brandon Jenkins, and now I'm getting a nice fat plus 250, plus 240. It looks like some money is coming in on him, so I'm not the only one picking up on the fact that this may have opened a little bit wide. So I might take the stab on Brandon Jenkins here in this spot, just because we know Zhu Rong struggles with volume, and as long as Brandon Jenkins can kind of grit his teeth and tough out getting popped by Zhu Rong a couple of times, I think he's very live to win a decision, and he hurts people. So we haven't seen Zhu Rong have too much trouble with his durability or anything like that, but facing a bigger, stronger guy, that could always change. You just never know what's going to happen. I might take a shot on the dog here. Kianzad taking on Raquel, Rocky, Pennington. Kianzad came in at 136. Pennington came in at 135.5. Kianzad, confident, good, solid flex. Not a whole lot surprising in that spot. Raquel Pennington, though, she came in and she's always got a bit of a soft bod. She's one of those fighters that she's not cut up. She's not popping abs. You never see anything crazy from her. That's just the way her body is built. But I think this is the best shape that we've ever seen her in. She had veins popping out on her arm. You could see a vein in her biceps sticking out. You could very clearly see an outline of her abdominals. She talked on Instagram about how this is the healthiest that she has ever been. She absolutely had the best camp of her life. She's had the best nutrition. She's ready to rock in this spot, and she's healthy mentally and physically for the first time in a long time. I think this is a buy low spot on Rocky, folks. I already bet Raquel Pennington earlier in the week. She's sitting about minus 130 right now. You can snag a couple minus 125s out there, it looks like, and I'm honestly very tempted to double down. I might be looking for more shares of Raquel Pennington because she is an elite talent and has only lost to the very best fighters in the world. And as much as I like Pannie Kianzad, she's a boxer and kind of a boxer only. If Raquel Pennington is able to take her out of that range, I don't think she's going to have much of an answer for what Rocky does. And Rocky's got some underrated power. If she lands a couple big shots, she can back Kianzad up too. So we saw it with someone like Miesha Tate. Took a long layoff, came back, best she's ever looked, and in fact, she got a finish in that fight. This is a spot where I think Rocky's kind of doubled down. She's kind of rededicated herself. Her partner Tisha looked amazing the last time we saw her. She went out to Denver. She's training with Gaethje and Rose. I'm expecting improvements. I'm expecting Rocky to come back and look like a young buck, fresh-faced Rocky Pennington here in this spot. So I think the money line is cheaply priced enough. I'm going to go ahead and take it. I've already taken it. And I think I might actually end up adding a little bit more to it. We'll see what happens by the end of the day. Mike Rodríguez taking on Tafon and Nchukwi. We've got Rodríguez came in at 202, so under the 205 limit. We've got Tafon coming in at 204.5. This one is weird, everybody. Really weird. So Mike Rodríguez coming in that light very strange. It's the best shape I've ever seen him in, though. He looked like he was in excellent condition. He's another guy that, even though he's big, he has a little bit of that soft bod thing going on because he's tall, long, and skinny. He looked cut up this time. He looks like he added some muscle. And the fact that he weighed in 3 pounds under, he's obviously working, because you don't just come in 3 pounds under and look good. If you come in under and you're flabby, rolled off the couch, don't have muscle mass, like we've seen that before, you don't look good like that and come in under. I think he's been working, and you can see that physically. Tafon Nchukwi on the other side of this thing, though, he's an absolute tank. This is one of those fighters, short, broad, all muscle. How do you fit that much muscle on a human frame? I don't freaking know. But he fought at 185, and he was a bit too slow to handle the 185ers. Now he's coming up to 205. I expect him to have some more power in his hands. I expect that weight to translate. He's a thick boy up here. Now, when they faced off, Tafon Nchukwi was eating, I think, an ice cream bar at the face-offs, which was just... it was interesting. It was funny to watch. But it was a good face-off. Mike Rodríguez obviously has the height and the reach advantage. Short and stocky, his Tafon Nchukwi. Man, if Tafon grapples, we know that's the Achilles heel of Mike Rodríguez. The problem is, we don't see Tafon grapple, and we have no reason to believe he's going to. So this is a complete pass for me, because if this fight stays standing, I could see a Mike Rodríguez 2.0 hurting, knocking out Tafon Nchukwi, or just point fighting himself to a decision victory. However, if Tafon Nchukwi has done his homework, if he's done his tape, if his coaches are worth their salt, and he comes in with a wrestling-heavy game plan and takes Mike Rodríguez down, this is over. He's going to TKO Mike Rodríguez in the second, because Rodríguez gets tired and has no ground game whatsoever. So, lots of questions. Both untrustworthy fighters. Tafon maybe got to the UFC a little bit too soon, and he's not quite there yet, whereas Mike Rodríguez got to the UFC, and he's a glass cannon. He's good when the fight is in his realm. When it's not in his realm, he goes belly up. So I don't want to back either of these people in this particular fight, but I was impressed by the way Mike Rodríguez looked on the scale. Joaquin Buckley coming in here taking on Antônio. Buckley 184.5, and Arroyo used that 1 extra pound. He came in at 186. Joaquin Buckley's a brick shit house. He's another one of these guys, like we were just talking about Nchukwi, where he's just solid muscle. Realistically, he could probably fight at 170 if he slimmed down, but he's got so much explosive power on him with all that muscle. He was really feeling himself. Up on the scale today after he weighed in, he was dancing. He was having a good time. So I think he's in a good mental space. Antônio, on the other hand, he came in mean looking. He had a don't give a fuck attitude. He tossed his hat off on the floor like he didn't care about it, looked focused and dialed in when he flexed after they read off his weight. I mean, he's intense. He's intense today, and it's a bit of a different feel from Antônio. Not something we've seen before, really. Both guys were intense at the stare down. Buckley always does the crazy eyes thing, and then Antônio tried to shake his hand, and Buckley refused and stormed off the stage. So I don't know if there's maybe some bad blood here that I'm just not aware of, or that both these guys are simply pumped up to go ahead and have this fight take place. But man, the size difference, Antônio is just massive. And we've seen how Buckley fights. His head is going to be there for knees and kicks. So I think Antonio's got the opportunity to knock Buckley out on the feet, just like we saw him get KO'd last time out. But Buckley's been training at a wrestling gym, and Antônio is a fish out of water if he gets put on his back. He will just simply ride the fight out from bottom position if he gets taken down. So if Buckley decides to mix in the wrestling, he absolutely puts this man on his back and wins a decision or gets a TKO. So, again, big questions about two very untrustworthy fighters. I couldn't possibly lay minus 200 on a guy like Joaquin Buckley in this spot. It's strictly dog or pass for me because of the holes we've seen in both of their games. But I also don't trust and don't like betting on people who lay on their back, don't get up, and have very little chance of submitting off of their back. And that's kind of what we have in Antônio here. He does his best work kicking at range on the feet. And Buckley probably will give him that fight, which means he's live here. But if Buckley comes in with that new wrinkle, if he goes for the grappling, this fight looks completely different. And you could be sitting there burning up your plus 170 within 3 minutes of the fight. Nate Maness taking on Tony Gravely. Maness came in at 135, Gravely 135.5, and Maness was cut to shreds. He is absolutely jacked for this spot here, dialed in, looking mean. Tony Gravely, on the other hand, he came up there and he was blinking heavy. And I know people think I'm crazy when I look into this kind of shit. But he gets up there and he's going, And it's a sign of discomfort. It's a sign of a bad weight cut. It's a sign of the lights affecting you because you're dehydrated. Like, it was what I was looking for in a guy that we know has bad gas issues. Now, Gravely, lots of muscle on his frame. He's a short, stocky wrestler type. We know he's cut up and ready to go. But Nate Maness has a decent size advantage here. I've talked before about how the size advantage can play in reverse, though. The wrestlers actually like to be the shorter, squatter fighter because they can get on the hips that much easier, and that could be completely in play here. But I think Nate Maness is going to use that height. He's going to use that reach, and we know he's got the better gas tank. The way he's coming into this fight with a chip on his shoulder, I love what I see. I already bet Nate Maness. I got plus 170 on him, and I didn't know where this line was going to go. It kind of poked up to plus 180 in a couple places, and it immediately gets bought right back down. So it's sitting up. You can get plus 160 to plus 180 anywhere in that range around the market, it looks like. So I'm sitting right smack dab in the middle of that. I don't know that I want to put more money on Nate Maness in this particular spot, but this is a round 3 sprinkle all day, baby, because if Gravely gasses, Maness is going to hurt this man. We know Gravely's going to have the advantage early. We know he's going to do some good stuff in the wrestling in round 1. And we know Gravely's a guy that's never been knocked out. I've heard a lot of people talking about that. But Maness is a club and sub type of fighter. He's the type of dude that's going to rock you and hurt you on the feet. And then he's got a nasty submission game that he can use to take advantage of that. I was on Nate Maness coming into this thing. I already made the bet pre-flop. But seeing Tony Gravely, even just that one little chink in the armor, that the big blinks he was having on the scale, love to see it with a Nate Maness ticket in my pocket. So I'm definitely riding on Nate Maness. I think Maness by sub is on the table. I think Nate Maness round 3 is absolutely on the table. Arman Tsarukyan taking on Christos Giagos. I can take this off now for this one. There's not much of a tinfoil, not much opportunity for the crazy theories and tinfoil hat on this spot. Both guys came in at 155.5, and Arman Tsarukyan just, holy crap, he's another one of these guys. I have no clue how he's as jacked as he is, but business as usual. Absolutely dialed in, intense looking, ready to rock. Giagos, he looked in good shape, gave a big smile when he got up on scale. This was a very intense face-off. Arman Tsarukyan uncharacteristically stepped in on Christos Giagos. I don't know if he's got a problem or if he's got a point to prove. I'm not sure, but he came in hot today at the face-offs. But again, very surprisingly, size advantage Christos Giagos. I really thought Arman Tsarukyan was going to be the bigger man of these two. Now, I could give you that tinfoil hat theory of, oh, the size matters, and because he's bigger, he's going to be live in this spot. Maybe that's true, but I just think the skill and the technique of someone like Arman Tsarukyan is going to make the difference. Yes, he's facing a bigger man. Yeah, he might not be the stronger fighter in there, but we know he's got an excellent gas tank. We know he's got extremely high fight IQ, and we know his grappling chops are second to none. So I really don't see the upset happening here. I would love to be able to sit here, take a plus 550 underdog, and tell you he's going to knock off the biggest favorite on the card. I don't think this is the one this week. I think Arman Tsarukyan is definitely the play. I think a late finish, that third round, we've seen Giagos struggle with his grappling or his gas tank before, but at the same time, Arman Tsarukyan, decision machine, that high fight IQ kicks in. He does what he needs to do to get the win. So I think it's Tsarukyan by sub or decision. Decision probably more likely. As much as I love my finishes, I wouldn't be shocked if Arman just does what Arman does and makes it all the way for the 15 minutes here. Here comes a good one. Ariane Lipski taking on Mandy Böhm. Lipski came in at 126, Böhm 125.5, and Lipski was in great shape. She's always in good shape. That's one of the things I like to talk about her with her physique and her frame. Mandy Böhm, she looked solid. She had a very confident-looking smirk on her face up there. She is undefeated, so you can't really blame her for that. And this was a super intense face-off. I mean, you could see Mandy Böhm's teeth clenching. You could see the veins popping out of her neck when they were face-to-face here. There was a slight size advantage for Ariane Lipski. Now, I kind of expected that. They're very close to the same size, so it's nothing big, nothing crazy. But I'm on Ariane Lipski here in this spot. I think, much like Raquel Pennington, I think this is a buy low spot. We've got Ariane Lipski, who is a proven commodity in the UFC, who's fought some very high caliber fighters, and yeah, she's had a couple holes in her game, but you know what? She's got those rounds in. She's got that time in. And everyone talks about how awful she is getting the takedowns, getting put on her back. She's finally fighting a striker. She's finally fighting somebody who we don't think has grappling chops, and I hear just everybody out there slandering my girl Lipski, saying that Böhm has good grappling, she will be able to take her down, she'll just control her like everybody else. we don't have the evidence that she's capable of that. And on top of that, Ariane Lipski has been training at ATT, one of the best wrestling gyms in the world, with the GOAT, Amanda Nunes, whom not too long ago, everybody kept saying that grappling was her kryptonite and her weakest link, and now look what she has done. Lipski is the perfect type of prodigy to learn from Amanda Nunes. She's got the same freakish Brazilian power, and if she can get some of the same tools that Nunes has, she's going to be a problem in this division. I'm on Lipski. And again, very much like Pennington, I am very tempted to double down in this spot. She's about a minus 120, minus 125 favorite. A little bit of money, it looks like, starting to pour in here on Lipski. But I just think this is disrespect for this girl, Mandy Böhm, to come in here, have this big main card opportunity when she's done nothing. Her opponents have not been caliber, and Lipski has fought nothing but some of the best. And yeah, she's taken a couple of bad spots, but she's dangerous, she's well-rounded, she's strong, she hits hard. I like everything I see from Lipski. I'm considering doubling on her, and I might take her inside the distance. I might even take her by submission at 8-1 because I think there's a chance that her grappling has improved massively. The club and sub is definitely on the table in this spot. If she hits Böhm hard enough to make her wrestle, there's a chance that this hits the floor and she takes her back and chokes her out. Co-main event, Ion Cutelaba taking on Devin Brown Bear Clark. Cutelaba came in at 205. Clark came in at 206, and Ion Cutelaba does what Ion Cutelaba does. This man is always in shape. He is always jacked, but holy shit. Like, he knows his back is up against the wall this week, and his body looks like he treated it that way. He had angry eyes and gave a massive flex at the scales. Big flex from Devin Clark coming in at 206, and honestly, he looked good. He looked solid. He looks like he put a little bit of muscle on, which I don't blame him. He's always been a little bit small at 205, so him getting a little extra muscle on that frame, probably a good thing. Size advantage goes to Ion Cutelaba. We expected that. We knew that coming in. And Ion was trying to mess with Devin Clark. He came in and was like sprinkling over his head or something, and Devin Clark was like trying to block him and keep him at arm's length. It was actually really funny to see what they did. And Devin made him shake his hand, and then Ion took the opportunity to try to like bring him in for a bear hug or something, and everyone had to like split them up again. It was a real fun, entertaining way in between those two. But this is one of those spots where you know what? I'm gonna break it back out again. I'm gonna bring the cat back because I've had a weakness for Ion Cutelaba. He's one of those guys that I have just been a fan of. I love his crazy shit-eating wild man style, but he's had some serious holes in his game. He's had some serious chinks in the armor. Devin Clark is a guy that I've not liked. He's a guy that I've gone against. He's a guy that I've looked to fade in the past, and he's gotten me a few times. He's gotten me where I underestimated him or I overestimated his opponent, and this is a spot that I told myself I was going to pass on because it falls into that same category of a fighter that I like who's maybe a bit overrated with some holes versus a fighter I don't like who's maybe a little bit underrated and better than I'm giving them credit for. But the more I look at this fight, the more I keep an eye on this thing, I think Ion Cutelaba's size in wrestling is going to be a problem. You know, in his last fight, he ended up getting outpointed for 15 minutes, but he stayed in that fight. He didn't get knocked out. He didn't get finished, and he blew his wad in that first round. Devin Clark, he was on skates when he fought a very similar style fighter to Ion Cutelaba. I think it was 2 fights ago when Devin Clark fought... it was a few more than that, I guess. But he fought... Where you at? I'm blanking on my guy's name here. Alonzo Menifield. When Devin Clark fought Alonzo Menifield, he was completely counted out. But that first round, he got popped, and he got popped hard. And I was on Alonzo Menifield in that spot, and I was screaming at my TV because all we needed was one more shot. Just one more shot. Devin Clark was on skates. He was rocked. He was hurt. The referee could have stopped in to step it at any point in time, but Menifield did not follow up because he doesn't flurry. He doesn't have that kind of a gas tank, and he got stuck in that spot. Well, I'm telling you what, Ion Cutelaba, if anything, is the polar opposite of that to a fault. He will go for broke when he has somebody hurt. If you need one more follow-up shot, Ion Cutelaba is not the guy to hold back. He's going to keep pounding. If this fight ends up looking a little bit like that one, if Devin Clark gets hurt early, Ion Cutelaba is getting that stoppage. He's not the guy that's going to back off and let him reset. And on top of that, Cutelaba is a solid wrestler himself, so we have seen him get taken down and grinded out by bigger, stronger men when he gets tired in the later rounds. And while that might happen if this thing does make it to round 2, I think he's a good enough grappler to keep Devin Clark off of him at least early and get that finish. So I'm kind of thinking Cutelaba by round 1 finish here. I don't really like the minus 150 price tag. I don't know if you're getting enough of a good price on him to actually take him by finish. I mean, in round 1, he's only plus 250 to get the finish in round 1, which, like, that's not sexy. I mean, what if he comes out and shows fight IQ for the first time in his life? Cutelaba could get this thing into the second round and just be the better striker of the two. I mean, you can't ever count out improvements like that taking place. So I'm in the Cutelaba camp. I don't want to wait too long if I'm going to bet it because money's been coming in on him. That price is slowly ticking up and getting higher and higher. Could have got him at like plus 140 earlier in the week when he was getting counted out there, but I think plus 150 is about the right spot. Might end up on Cutelaba. Definitely picking him to win. Not sure how I'm going to approach it from the betting, but the tinfoil cap definitely says Cutelaba this week. Main event time. Anthony Smith taking on Ryan Superman Spann. Anthony Smith came in, and he was the last of the scales today. He took his good, sweet time, kept us waiting. It was really annoying. We could have been done a decent bit sooner. He came in at 205.5. Ryan Spann came in at 206, and he looked great. He looked solid on the scales, gave the one-arm flex, looking good. Anthony Smith, same thing as always. He never looks all that different. You can tell every once in a while. I've had a couple videos where I've talked about his physicality. You can see him more cut, less cut, that kind of thing. He's been holding pretty steady his last couple of fights. When they face off, Anthony was intense, let me tell you. Anthony Smith came in and he was looking to stare daggers at Ryan Spann. Spann does not meet his opponent's eyes. He does kind of the John Jones thing where he looks away from them and doesn't get into that kind of thing. They size up extremely well. Everyone's always talking about how crazy big and athletic Ryan Spann is, but these guys are kind of a 1-to-1 ratio. Spann might be just a little bit thicker, might have a little bit more muscle on him, but he doesn't have a size advantage over Anthony Smith. This is such an interesting fight to me. I see a lot of love for Ryan Spann out there, and I totally get it. But if he does not get Smith out of there in the first round, if he does not finish this thing early, Anthony Smith is going to chew him up the longer this fight goes on. What I am tempted to do is take a violence bet. Fight doesn't go the distance is like minus 250 or something like that in some places. I'm very tempted to parlay that with something further on down the card. Very tempted to use that as a parlay piece. But I might pay up for the 3.5 rounds. I'm tempted to go under and do a violence bet here, under 2.5, under 3.5, something in that ballpark, because if Ryan Spann doesn't get the finish, Anthony Smith is going to absolutely work him the deeper this fight goes. But I think there is a high upside of Ryan Spann actually doing what he does, clipping Smith early, and if he's got the wrong official in there that doesn't understand what Anthony Smith does, he could get the fight waved off early when he gets hit with a big shot. So I think violence, I think under for the main event is the way to go. I see some people taking the dog. I get it. I would personally line up more on the Anthony Smith side, but I really don't want to pay minus 170 standing in front of a freak like Ryan Spann. So that is the Undefeated post weigh-in show, folks. We got a couple spots that I'm pretty solid on. I thought I might be adding more bets to my card this week. We lost a fight. I added a couple bets. Those fights got canceled. So now we're looking at maybe one bet that I might like to add, and that might be Brandon Jenkins as a big fat underdog. He might be my underdog spot for the week, and I might be doubling down on Lipski and Rocky. Those are the two ladies fights. I think those are the two biggest value spots on the card where we're getting buy low opportunities, and I want to attack those. I want to punish the bookies for incorrectly lining my ladies. So those are kind of what I'm looking to do with this week. Good luck on all your action. Hit me in the comments below. Let me know what your favorite bet is for UFC Vegas 37, and I wish you luck. I hope we all cash. I hope we all go home with a giant bag full of money so we can blow it all on NFL Sunday. Let's roll!